Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to, we now have a quorum. I'd like to call to order the, excuse me, the July 11th meeting of Shreveport Metropolitan Planning Commission of Caddo Parish. And would like to ask that you would join us, if you would, for our invocation, our Pledge of Allegiance. And I'd like to ask Mr. Andrews if he lead us in our invocation, and Ms. Cooper if she would lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Father, we thank you for this day, and once again, we thank you for this opportunity to be called servants. We pray that you continue to bless us and guide us and keep us. We pray today, especially for those applicants before us, that you endow us with wisdom, knowledge, and understanding as we deliberate through the requests that they bring to this group today. It is in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Welcome to the regularly scheduled public meeting of the Shreveport Caddo Metropolitan Planning Commission. For public hearing agenda items, if you wish to make public comments on an application, we have MPC comment slips next to the speaker stand, right next to the podium. For future notification purposes, it's very important that you fill out a slip and drop it in the box when you come forward to speak. Please, when you come forward to speak, state your full name, mailing address, and zip code before addressing the board. We will call each case on the agenda in order and hear first from the applicant. Then we will listen to those speaking in favor. 10 minutes are allotted for the principal spokesperson, and then 3 minutes for each additional speaker. We will then hear from those wishing to speak against an application. Again, 10 minutes are allotted for the principal spokesperson and 3 minutes for each additional speaker. One representative of the application can then speak in rebuttal if so desired. After hearing comments on each case, the board will then immediately deliberate and vote on that case before moving on to the next case on our agenda. Please note that when the board is deliberating, members of the public are not permitted to comment. Any member of the public may request a copy of the board's decisions on a particular case by contacting our office at 318-673-6480 after 1 o'clock p.m. tomorrow, or by accessing our website at shreveportcaddompc.com. For consent agenda items and other agenda items not requiring a public hearing, public comments can be made upon request by filling out an MPC comment slip. If comments are requested for a specific agenda item, the chair will offer an opportunity for those comments prior to the commission taking action on those agenda items. All of the MPC board decisions are subject to appeal to either the city council or the parish commission, depending on the location of the property in question. Please note that it is your responsibility to contact the appropriate governing body about their procedures as related to the matter with which you are concerned. Copies of this document and the phone numbers to contact the governing bodies are available on the table next to the podium and in the entryway to this room. As a courtesy, ladies and gentlemen, please remember to turn off your cell phones while the MPC board is in session. The commission values your testimony and appreciates your compliance with these guidelines. And next on our agenda is the approval of our previous minutes from June 6, 2018, as well as our special call meeting June 25th, 2018. What's your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Andrews, a second by Ms. Smith to approve. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor vote yes, all opposed no.
Yep.
Nancy's is not working.
Mine's not working either.
I pressed.
I appreciate it.
Show of hands.
I'll vote for it.
Oh, there it is.
Let's,
There it is.
you got it?
Chair.
All right. Thank you. That passes. Next item on our agenda, we are on our consent agenda items. There appear to be no consent agenda items. And so we will move to our public hearings. Our first public hearing item is number 6, case number C-31-18. It's a zoning request.
Good evening. I am Julie Barnett, mailing address 315 East Texas Street, Bossier City, Louisiana, 71111. I am representing my client, Washington and Smith Paradise Funeral Home. I'm the real estate agent for this client. We're requesting that the zoning be changed for 1842 Borden Drive from I-2 to C3.
All right, is that all?
That is it.
Are any questions? Tell me your name again, I'm sorry.
Julie Barnett.
Any questions for Mrs. Barnett? Thank you. Are there others who are here today to speak in favor of this application, this request? Okay, are there any who are here today to speak in opposition to this request? All right. Hearing none, what's your pleasure? Commissioner?
I make a motion to
approve.
move.
I have a motion by Mr. Andrews, a second by Mrs. Smith to approve.
And I just have a question.
Yes.
This would be for staff. If this is approved for, I see a couple of letters of opposition, but not real sure where the, if someone was doing lesser of an operation next to your operation, how that's, could negatively impact their business. But I guess my question would be, could this company move out and someone else move in, but pose some sort of objection or complaint to what they were doing next door?
Well, the C3 allows for quite a variety of commercial uses. And in that area, there's quite a few commercial and business uses around. We considered that it was complementary to that area and was not a disruption. And it's a repurposing of an existing building that's there. It's 22,000 square foot building. Also, when you look at the area, there's a lot of high vacancy in that area, an area that's kind of been in decline. And we saw this as an opportunity, or a legitimate opportunity to reinvest in that area.
Okay, thanks. No, and I think it's a great idea, especially, I just couldn't understand and I haven't spoken with them about it, but I just didn't really understand how that was going to negatively impact
And I
a
agree.
business with a greater use. And
Right.
as long as they're okay with when they move in, they know people are going to be banging and grinding and welding close to there, then there shouldn't be a problem. Okay, but
Gotcha.
other than that, I have no questions. Thank you.
All right.
Theron, I have
Yes,
one.
Mrs. Smith?
Will you elaborate on spot zoning? That was what some of the homeowners was concerned about.
Well, the property owner that mentioned spot zoning, but
Yes.
because if you just go catty corner from that property, it is zone C3, it's technically not spot zoning.
Okay.
Because it's not an island out there by itself. And so therefore, it made sense to go ahead and to agree with the change in zoning to C3.
Thank you.
All right. Any other comments? Hearing none, all in favor vote yes, all opposed no. All right, that passes unanimously. Our next case, item number 7, case number C-32-18.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes, Mr. Joseph.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to let the record reflect that I'm recusing myself from the vote on this matter insofar as I've been previously involved in the project.
Okay. Thank you. Is there a representative? Yes.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is John Henry, and I'm the founder, chairman, and CEO of the Chariot Companies. We're based out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and we are a social impact organization whose sole and purpose and mission is to provide economic opportunity for underprivileged communities. Before I get into the project, I think it's important to share a little bit about the why and how we got here. And I'm going to indulge you a little bit, or at least myself, and share a quote with you by the poet Robert Browning. Because this quote has been I've been driven by this quote my entire life. In fact, my senior year in high school, this was my high school quote. A man's reach must exceed his grasp, or what's the heaven for? My reach has been exceeding my grasp my entire life. I come from a very impoverished community in the city of Philadelphia. I'm the first person to graduate from college, first person to attend law school in my family. And I've done a lot of firsts. I was a municipal bond lawyer and commercial real estate attorney for the law firm of Holland & Knight. It's a large international law firm based in, really, there's 20 offices worldwide, and I was in their Washington, D.C. office. And what I found through my journey is when you go from poverty to prosperity, and you're an African American, when you get there, it's a lonely place, because you don't really see too many people that look like you. And while I acquired a bunch of toys and widgets and material things, I thought about my family. Because while I'm enjoying all these successes, they're looking at me like I'm a unicorn. They don't really get it. They didn't understand that my struggle was their struggle. So at that point, I said, I've got to start my company. I want to throw this away, the practice of law and developing real estate for other people. And I'm going to create a company that's an integrated company that's not just about bricks and mortar, that ties in education, workforce development training programs, it ties in technology, and it's truly integrated from a social impact perspective. I wanted to be different. I had a lot of success doing cookie cutter, power centers and apartment communities, but that's wasn't where the action was for me. The action for me and where my heart was to do what we're trying to do here in Shreveport. What we're trying to do here in Shreveport is something very different, at least for this community. It's been done a lot along the southeast. In fact, I based this project similarly, I see it similarly to Richmond, Virginia. You guys are comparable markets. I used to practice law and work and develop properties in Richmond. Shreveport to me reminds me of Richmond in 1990s. You have a great sort of economic base and framework upon which to catalyze economic growth through the energy industry. You have a lot of good things going for you. But right now, I think we just need to embrace change. I think that's the ultimate question here. Do you want to exceed your grasp? Do you want to reach for something? Or do you just want to stay in your lane? This project, to me, represents a reach, and it's an attainable reach. We've done this before. I typically, the way I develop properties, I seek out areas that have 50% poverty. That's my sweet spot. This is like home to me. I think this community, my community, the African American community and underprivileged communities need more people like me. Because I walked the fine line. I went to a private school, the Mercersburg Academy. It cost $65,000 a year to attend that school. I didn't have that kind of money. I got a scholarship. I was a football player. But I walked that path between poverty and prominence every day. I saw extraordinary wealth and I saw extraordinary poverty. I'd go home and I'd see poverty. I'd go back to school. It was a cocoon of love and opportunity. That's what I want to provide for my people all over the East Coast. And I think this project achieves that. Now, you may hear from people, people saying certain things about the plan, but from a planning perspective, we adhered to the 2030 Caddo plan to a T. It adheres to all of the principles that you all are trying to achieve from a planning perspective. It does so much more, though, than bricks and mortar. I have a partnership, in fact, with an Israeli-based technology company. I serve as the sole minority business enterprise for the supply this SD-WAN technology. It's a game changer. I'm bringing that to this community from a public safety perspective and to bridge the digital divide at this project. That means something. It's in our grasp. It's in our hand. We can do it. Everyone here can do it. Embrace the change. I don't want to get too much into the specific development program because I think you all have read it, and I'm certainly going to be ready to answer all of your questions to the extent you have them on the plan. But I really wanted to highlight the ancillary benefits that are going to be derived by the community that are outside of the bricks and mortar. When I started my company, I thought it was very important to have a corporate tie to show leadership to the business community. So I said, I'm going to pledge 20% of my net profits, wherever I make money, 20% of those profits are going to go to nonprofits, unrestricted operating grants for nonprofits who serve the community in STEAM and STEM education. I'm putting my money where my mouth is. You can have all the money in the world. Doesn't make me feel as good as helping other people at the end of the day. I'm going to eat the same way. Win or lose, draw here. I'm going to be all right. But these people behind me, they might not be. And that's why I'm here. Education's very important. I have 4 core platforms for my business: energy, healthcare, IT, and advanced manufacturing. Now, I'm a municipal bond lawyer by training. Some of these things I had no business getting into, but I found a way. And now we're doing very well in all those spaces. And I want to ensure that in the 21st century, people from Shreveport, underprivileged communities here, can leverage those opportunities, because that's the growth industries. Those 4, IT, healthcare, energy, advanced manufacturing. For the next 50 years, that's where all the jobs are going. So I integrated those platforms, those jobs, with educational programming on top of infrastructure from a physical dimension, if you will. Now, on top of that, we're trying to go after the digital divide. I understand that there's not high-speed broadband out in the Lakeshore area. Well, we're going to stall it. Because I don't know if you all know, most incumbent utilities, the reason why they don't install high-speed fiber in certain markets, and they're typically in underserved communities, because they don't think they're going to get the payback on the capital expenditure. That's the bottom line. Someone's got to do it. How can you compete in the 21st century without connectivity to the internet? It's not going to happen. So as a part of this project, we're going to lay down that fiber. Now, I would suspect, and I would hope, that these incumbents say, well, since we didn't have to pay for it, we'll rent it, and now we can go after these communities and provide them with the essential services that they need. That's really the bottom line. The community benefits from this project far outweigh any downside to this project. It's not even close. We have 20 acres of community parks seared into the plan. 10 miles of interconnected walking trails. You have a robust amount of community architecture here, or community footprint here in the old Shreveport Country Club. 117 years old. It was the gem. It's still a gem because of the people behind me. It's not just the physical space, but these people here, they care about their community. They want opportunity. They want jobs. They want a place to go to a nice restaurant. They want to feel safe. We provide all of those things in this plan. So, I guess I'm going to say one more thing about the educational component, and then I'm going to wrap it up and field your questions. I mentioned earlier that I attended the Mercersburg Academy, and I'm very proud to share that this summer is the first year that I've sponsored 10 kids from Philadelphia and Washington, D.C., and Richmond, Virginia, to spend time and go out there for several weeks and have the experience that I had, expose them to something new. Today, to the extent that this project goes through and is passed, you can expect at minimum 10 kids, highly ambitious, highly academically intelligent, emotionally, with emotional intelligence that I believe that can get into Mercersburg. We're going to sponsor them and fly them to Mercersburg for all these various camps. That's the relationship that I have with Mercersburg, because I told them when I was there were only about 6 or 7 African Americans out of 400. I just met with the headmaster, and I said, look, we need to do more. And she agreed with me. So now we're going to be doing this all up and down the East Coast. Everywhere I go, we're going to be bringing underprivileged kids to this awesome school that taught me a lot about life, showed me what the pathways are, and that's the reason why I'm here today. Kids need to be exposed to this. I want to be the conduit to do it, and I think Shreveport is a proper place in which to do that from. I would be remiss to not say and mention that our project at full build-out, which will probably take 10 years, is going to create about 1,200 construction jobs and probably 200 full-time jobs. Now, I think that's a lot of jobs. And we are committed to have minority business enterprises and women enterprises participate in that capital stack. We're committed that 50% of that money is going to go to the underprivileged communities, MBEs and WEBs. I can do that because I'm controlling the dice. At the end of the day, it's our money. We can do that. I think my community needs more people like me so that we can participate meaningfully and be at the table and demonstrate that we can participate on multiple levels. And I thank you for your time, and I'll field some questions right now.
All right.
I have some questions.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Smith?
Yes, you say your name is John Henry?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Mr. Henry, you made a very good presentation, but I have some questions. And you kept stressing how you got here.
Yes.
And when I read all of this information, I wondered myself, how did you get here with all of the investment that you're talking about doing here? It sounds good, because when I went out there, I couldn't even believe looking at that situation with the grass like it is. And I was just saying, as an investment, I would have went in there and done something to clean all of that mess up. And I'm just wondering, you met with the neighbors out there. Did you get a lot of support? And I
Yeah.
have several questions I need to ask you.
Yes, I've met with the neighbors on several occasions,
Mhm.
and I believe that there will be a series of advocates and supporters that will be speaking on my behalf. Yes, I've met with several folks on several different occasions.
Okay. Did you share with them your track record? What you're talking about doing here? I know you say you've been blessed, and I like that when you say that, with God's help. But tell me something, tell us something about your track record.
Can you, my track record
Yeah,
in terms
what
of,
have you
can
done
you give me
in
some
other
direction?
places?
Sure.
Because you're talking about stage one, I believe about 15 stages, and I've read them. I want to know something about your track record, where you've been working other places besides here. We do need jobs, more construction work. Tell us some about that.
Sure.
In the houses.
In my career, I believe I've developed in excess of 6,000 multifamily market rate apartments. I've developed in excess of $500 million worth of low-income housing tax credit projects. My first project was when I was 29 years old, and I developed a 450,000 square foot power center anchored by Target and Kohl's, located in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. Most recently, I've diversified sort of my business interests. So I've had to learn the technology space a little bit so that I can parlay and to help those folks in the community eliminate the digital divide. It took me, I was a quick study, I believe. And I just recently, on April 18th, partnered with an Israeli-based company to sell supply this SD-WAN technology that's going to benefit this community. The same technology is being sold right now to police departments throughout the world. We've sold it to Baltimore and Houston PD. In terms of our energy initiatives, I can't get into too much depth in that, but I think by October, I think there'll be some national recognition as to what we're doing in the energy performance contracting space. We have some very interesting and interesting opportunities that have presented themselves, and I think in the energy lane you'll see some things as well. And that's kind of it in a nutshell without going at great length.
According to documentation, do you have anything you could present?
Of course.
Okay, will you do that?
Well, let me ask you a question. Tell me, Ms. Smith, what are you asking for specifically?
I'm asking for him. Most of the time, when a developer comes, they're going to show us some projects that they have done. That's what I'm asking.
So you're asking for projects
Yes.
similar to the project?
Yes.
I wasn't, it didn't sound, I wasn't sure.
That's what I'm talking
Okay.
about.
I didn't.
And maybe he doesn't. You understand?
No, I mean, I wasn't expecting to bring out the archives. I wasn't prepared to bring that, but certainly, I think once we get done, I can grab those PDFs and I can make that a part of the record for y'all.
Okay, thank you for your presentation.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Remedies?
I had a couple of questions. I appreciate you coming to answer the question. You know, you hear all kind of different stories and reasons and things, and it's good that you're here and not a representative, so we can ask you directly. But so this is funded by private money. This is going to be from your
Yes.
capital. So you're not asking for anyone else to fund it?
I'm not asking for any city or state money, that's correct.
Okay, good deal.
Net zero for the city.
You just meant public money, right?
That's what I meant. Yeah, just,
Okay.
I mean, because he could always have investors. That's
Right,
okay. I
right.
mean, that's what the world's built on, right? But does this project provide any sort of tax exemption? Are you gonna, is that part of the way you're making all the numbers work on it? Or is this something that will be on the tax rolls?
It'll be absolutely on the tax rolls.
Okay, so there's nothing that you're asking of the community to forgive or?
Other than to walk with me on this journey and reach instead of, have your reach exceed your grasp. That's what I'm asking for. Yes, sir.
Okay, so when you get this, a large project like this, and I can identify with your story and what you do, I've done just on a very, very, very small scale myself, but, so this, at this size development would be self-sustainable and it wouldn't need to be propped up by others? Because I understand sometimes you build something and it's a heavy cash flow and a lot of positive cash flow, and you can help prop up something that you're doing for another reason, right? So in y'all's business model, I'm just trying to figure out the opposition, and I'm sure we will hear them articulate it while you're here. So this is going to be completely self-sustained, or in the business model where you are trying to revitalize some of the communities that have been left?
Mr. Remedies, just, excuse me, in all due respect, I think our issues have to do with zoning suitability, physical properties, land, and what's within the parameters of our law.
Mhm.
Whether or not a person is even successful is not our
Oh, I agree
responsibility.
100%.
I just want to be sure that our questions remain in the domain of zoning and the request that is before us as it relates to site plans and plan unit development. I'm not judging your motive. I'm just saying I want to be sure that Mr. Henry doesn't feel put upon to answer personal questions,
Yeah, and
notwithstanding how we
anything that
might
I ask, I
ask
promise
it.
I will be offended. I'm just, I can't really see the downside to it, because that's what I wanted to get in the open, is if it's your money, and whether or not it's, I guess it's immaterial whether it'll profit up, but that would somehow speak more to the cause as if you were, helping it along the way. But I guess that's the only things I wanted to lay out as we hear from other people that are in favor or possibly against, so we can really understand the baseline of that. So I sure you had no other motives. I just wanted to just understand clearly what the foundation of the project.
I mean, I can answer it this way. It was appealing to me, this project, because it was large enough that I could have scale and we could really affect the community meaningfully. I don't usually do smaller projects. I used to do those, but that's just not interesting to me because it doesn't move the needle. I need to be able to move the needle. This was interesting further to me because this is a historical, cultural asset. This was the oldest country club in Shreveport. Back in the day, everybody wanted to be at this place. Not now.
Yeah. Very good.
You know?
That's all the questions I had.
Okay.
Mr. Young?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have, one's a technical question, just to make sure. There's a whole list of remarks and comments and master plan considerations and preliminary site plan considerations. You're well aware of all those?
Yes, in fact, I was working with the staff over the last several months
Okay, and you have no
comfortable
issues
with
with
those.
those?
No, sir.
Okay, that was the first one. The second one, this is just more of a long-term planning. I asked this question in the pre-meeting, and it was just, and of course, it was probably more applicable to ask you as opposed to anyone else. You're leaving a huge green space with 9 to potentially 12 golf courses. Site plans always change. Matter of fact, we're dealing with another case later that it's a site plan change, or a long-term anyway, it's a site. Is there any potential that down the road that large green space would be converted over into residential? I'm not opposed to residential going in. I don't want you to think I am. but there is some considerations being given that you're giving that huge block on the parts that have existing roads. There's some considerations for green space there because you have so much you're giving on the other side.
Mhm.
Probably more than 50% you're giving of total land use. So, do you foresee? I mean,
No,
you're
not
a
at all.
10-year You're a 10-year plan, so I mean things change.
Hmm?
Do you foresee?
And that's
that-
why this golf course, this 9-hole course, is essentially phase 1.5, 1.5. The first order of business is to reroute that road, to come off of Lakeshore Drive and make it a dramatic grand entrance, and lay down the fiber at the same time and the infrastructure.
Okay.
Part 2, or 1.5, is essentially, I'm working with the local designer right now. In terms of the golf course, we're going to get that designed up, and my phase 2 is really the clubhouse. We have to activate that community space. We've got to get people back out there.
Okay.
And I think once we build that critical mass, we build that, it's probably going to be $3.5 million, build that road, put some money into the golf course and have that designed, create that sense of place, I think we're going to be okay. I would never do this project. I mean, at the end of the day, the real asset is the golf course. So I would never blitz the whole golf course. That's
Well,
contrary to what the whole
I get
idea
it,
is.
but you know, things change in 10 years. My only comment here is, and who knows what will be in 10 years, is there, if you decide to develop it out later, that there may be some considerations for additional green space in that latter part of that property if you ever did, just because you're taking into you're getting consideration on the part that you're finishing out with residential and commercial, like commercial, I guess, with the hotel departments and those type of things. That's all I was.
Yeah, it would just require me, I would speculate, but I would certainly put, if you feel more comfortable putting that on the record, I would be more than comfortable doing that.
Well, it's not part of your site plan now, so I don't necessarily think it'd be appropriate to stick it in there, but I was just thinking, you're giving consideration here, that if you ever went back later, just understand that at that point in time, that they may ask for above normal green space in that area, just because you were given consideration in this phase here. Am I clear?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay, I just want to
yes.
make sure I articulated that well
Yes.
enough for you. Mr. Chair, that's all I have.
All right, Ms. Dame Martell.
Yes, Mr. Henry, first of all, I want to say thank you for believing in our community. Sometimes it takes an outsider to come in and see all the potential we truly do have here. With that, I would like to ask, how was your experience with the site plan process and with our staff?
I was working with, I think her name was Alicia Corneo initially.
Alice.
Alice, for a brief stint, and then I've been working with Stephen Jean, excuse me, for quite some time. The process has been, very, I was comfortable with it. We've communicated very well when we adhered to everything that he asked for in terms of changes. I think it was I think we gave him a good product initially.
Okay.
So it didn't require a lot of pulling teeth, and it was just really noodling through specifics and getting more detail relative to the plan, and we accommodated all of his requests. I thought it went fairly well.
I appreciate your feedback. Thank you.
I have another.
Ms. Smith, I'm going to.
Yes, I've been getting a lot of calls, and they're been concerned about the houses that's going in that area. Upstairs, I heard a lot of good things about the houses that you would be building in that area, which would be an excess. Will you elaborate on it so that the ones
In the
here
housing,
can-
in the residential housing that we're building? Yes, ma'am.
Because all I've been hearing is Section 8 and all of that, so elaborate on them.
Okay, just to be clear,
Yes.
there will be no
please.
government subsidized low-income housing tax credits on this property.
Okay.
We contemplate nearly 600 units, but we're building an ecosystem such that your average teacher, firefighter, policeman, whomever, can enter into an entry-level apartment, and once they, match up with their mate, they can, move laterally. And our first price point from a townhouse perspective is probably $125,000 to $150,000 price point. Then we have single-family homes. If you're looking at the plan, as you go up closer to the clubhouse, the price point's likely going to be for the single-family detached between $200,000 and $250,000. And then as you get closer to the clubhouse, there's a reserved set of lots of 9 lots that are going to be, probably starting at $500,000. So the idea was to create an ecosystem such that if people live there, we want to keep them to stay because it's a very, very nice community amenity to live on a golf course with restaurants and all these amenities. So the idea is to not cannibalize yourself and having different striations of markets So as they climb the ladder with economic mobility, they choose to stay within that environment. And that's really what our thought was. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Colvin?
Yes. I just had a question. You talked about fiber a couple of times. When you're coming in and you're putting the fiber in this site, you'll tie back into Comcast, so Comcast will be the one doing the net provider?
No, we're doing the infrastructure, so we'd build the backbone spine and go to tie into the data center, and ultimately, likely what's going to happen is Verizon and AT&T will be releasing our fiber to
Attached to the internet? Off your fiber?
yes.
So in other words, the customer, person that lives on your property won't have Comcast at all?
No.
Okay, I
No,
got you.
yeah. We're going to, right now, they wouldn't if we didn't install the fiber, because at least they wouldn't have high-speed, broadband servicing that area.
And why I'm asking that, I don't know how the franchise works. I know that there's a franchise in Shreveport, it's Comcast, the franchise in Bossier is Suddenlink. So I don't know how that infringes on, they have the whole,
No, see, we're trying
Franchise
to
in the
provide
city.
them the backbone infrastructure
All right.
that they're unwilling generally to provide to these communities.
okay.
Ms. Cooper?
You may have just addressed some of this with Ms. Smith's housing question, but I just wanted the highlighted points in some of the opposition that was submitted with some concerns about transitional housing. They're concerned about your proposal about temporary types of accommodations. I just thought I wanted to just give you a minute to talk about any transitional housing.
Yeah, it's
program.
not
I
on the
don't know-
plan. I don't know where that came from. There's no transitional housing there at all. It's all permanent housing with specific market segments, with specific architectural guidelines that will accompany those as well. So there's no, I don't know what that means, really.
They talk about community-based educational and vocational buildings where life skills are taught, mental health.
Yes, that's going to be in the one office building that's contemplated to be 30,000 square feet. And that's going to be a technology, bear with me for 1 second, actually, it's right here.
Take your time.
And I think you may have it on the screen, but they're talking about this building, this building down here. This is the office building, 30,000 square foot office building, and we made it all glass because we really wanted to be inspiring. And we wanted innovation to come out of this building. Now, my partner, my Israeli-based partner, does not have a U.S. presence, and they're interested, to the extent that this project moves forward, to locate here in this building, their first U.S.-based headquarters. Now, in addition to that, we have a workforce training program, K through 12, that we have implemented throughout all of the areas in which we service. We typically partner with the school districts, and we have a lot of outputs. We have partnerships with Fortune 50 companies that are looking for skilled technicians to do certain tasks and jobs that make plumbers, HVAC technicians. We're going to train them. We're going to have a 2,000 square foot HVAC lab in here. So if you're post-secondary or in high school and you don't want to go to Mercersburg or you don't want to go to college, then you've got another pathway that you've got that you can earn a sustainable wage for your family. That's what's going to happen in this building right here. And we're hopeful that we're going to be able to peel off and pick, and pick some other sort of ancillary technology-based companies, because usually it's a herd mentality. I think we're going to get the first tech company from Israel to come, and they're all partners, because that's how their technology is integrated. So my goal is to pull some of that talent from Israel, and actually we're going to be training these folks in how to use this SD-WAN technology that we supply. So as we get this all over the world, and we supply these SD-WAN concepts and this communications devices all over the place, you need software engineers who can code, and to do this, from home, essentially. We're going to self-train them here. I've got a commitment from my Israeli partners that say we can do this project. They're going to put their offices here.
Okay, so this is a building that's going to be located on the property that's going to provide this type of education and higher tech
Yes.
business skills.
Yes.
And, okay, so, and I'll try to keep it short, but, so there seems to be a perception that you're going to be building housing that's going to provide accommodations from homelessness to permanency. So it's almost like there's a perception you're gonna have halfway houses or something. And would that be accurate or not?
That's inaccurate, you know, and I'm kind of incredulous at this point because, you know, notwithstanding the fact that I keep on, everyone I talk to from the community, everywhere, you know, I say the same things over and over again, and, you know, despite that, these sort of things just keep on popping up, and it's not true.
On video.
Yeah, exactly. It's not true.
I just wanted to clarify that.
yes.
That was one of the subdivision's concerns. It sounds like when you were answering Ms. Smith's question, you were talking about the lower income houses, like the townhouses and the lower price range. You were hoping people were going to transition into, as they got older and their incomes increased, they might transition to the higher
Price point homes, yes,
houses.
ma'am.
Is that, maybe that's what you were hoping for transition, you'll keep the people in the community?
Yeah, because we're building an ecosystem, because it's a
Right.
233 acres. We want to maintain that community, and since we're grounding that in that community infrastructure, namely the golf course, the restaurants, the pools, and all those sort of amenities, it's such a robust amenity package, we want to keep them there. So we have to give them offerings as they make more money that they stay, and they don't go somewhere else.
Maybe that sense of transition was the confusion.
It could be.
I don't know, but anyway, okay, thank you, that's helpful, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Young?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Henry, to tell off what Dale was talking about, you're going to put in a fiber optic complete backbone in the whole neighborhood. Am I wrong, or am I right? Did I read that you're actually going to provide internet service at no cost to the whole community? Is that right?
I think that will be a part of the HOA. We're building a smart city technology, so this is going to be the best 21st century sort of smart city within that 233 acres, yes.
And generally speaking, fiber optic is generally AT&T as opposed to one of your cable companies. And I'm assuming that's probably more in genre of what you're looking at, more about.
Yeah, well, we have without getting too deep into the communications device, ultimately it's a 4-channel bonder, so we are able to leverage public infrastructure for private networks. So to the extent it's 4G, 3G, LTE, satellite, or soon to be 5G, we can pick off essentially all of those carrier towers, dynamically identify the best pathways from each one, and then create a VPN network that's reliable and resilient.
Tech guru. So am I. So I get it. So I kind of understood where you were going, and there are a lot of places in the United States are going to this centralized services, if you will, that so communities don't have to deal with. I just deal with before I got here, which was a lightning strike right next to my house that took out my motor. And so it's more global, if you will. So thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you. All right, thank you, Mr. Henry. I think that appears to be all the questions. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is there anyone here to speak in favor of the application?
Good afternoon. My name's Cody White. I live at 6121 Fern Avenue, number 38, Shreveport, 71105. I'm one of the co-managers of Country Club Investors LLC that owns the 33-acre tract that's being considered today. I wish to speak in favor of the proposal. My comments will be brief. During August 1960, I moved to Shreveport, and soon thereafter, my family and I joined the Shreveport Country Club. My wife, 3 sons, and I loved it and have many fond memories there. I continued as a member of the Shreveport Country Club until my friend Denny Dilron shut it down. I've been very involved with the problems of the Shreveport Country Club since 2006, having, along with many others, devoted many hours to these ups and downs trying to save this club. I thought about providing some of the details of our trials and tribulations, but have thought better of that and will not bore you with the details. But I can assure you that I've devoted a lot of time to this project. I'm old enough to realize that many times we do not understand a problem or situation until we can look back on the activities of the past. This is a perfect example of that. All of my efforts through the years to say that the Shreveport Country Club were merely blood transfusions. The proposal of Mr. George Henry and Chariot Companies is not another blood transfusion. It is a heart transplant, not just for this property, but for the entire neighborhood and the part of this city all of which we need so well. I'm very excited about what lies ahead, especially bringing the back nine back into play. As they say, a half a loaf is better than no loaf at all. I hope you, the members of our Metropolitan Planning Commission, will give this proposal your unanimous approval. Thank you.
Someone else to speak in favor of this application? Mr. Delaney, you come speak in favor of the application?
Yes, sir. My name is Wendell Delaney. I reside at 2909 Curtis Lane, Shreveport, Louisiana, 71109. For the record, I would like to pass out a petition in support of this project. I had an opportunity to be part of 5 meetings with Mr. John Henry. 2 of the meetings I hosted at my home for the neighborhood, where I am the president of the association, but I'm here today standing, speaking as a resident. During those meetings, there were lots of discussion. Initially, I was concerned, had some very serious questions that need to be asked and answered. From that point, we went to a second meeting that was hosted at my house. Still had several questions, very legitimate questions from the community. From that point, we had a third meeting that was at the library. And from that point, we had a fourth meeting that was held at the New Elizabeth Baptist Church. From that point, we had a fifth meeting with myself, Bernie Wood, and Representative Sam Jenkins. It was a 2.5-hour lunch. We had some very serious questions. Some of the questions that you guys have asked today, we had some of those questions. I was very well pleased. At that point, my mind was at ease. For the record, I want to establish that I do stand here today and support this project. I have much rather trade in the rats, the raccoons, and the snakes. I can walk out of my backyard. I live on hole 13. I can walk out of my backyard and literally the grass is 18 feet tall. I measured it today before I came here. So I would much rather trade in those rats. I would much rather trade in those raccoons and snake for a walking trail, for a nice restaurant, for some condos, a golf course, and anything that's going to enhance and make Shreveport and the community that I live in a better place.
All right.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Delaney. Ms. Smith?
Yes, Coach.
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
glad to see you. And I know when you called me the first time, you was talking in another direction, and I'm glad for you to stand here and say the things that you're saying today.
Thank y'all.
Thanks a million, Coach.
Mr. Remedies?
Did you find that most of the things that, I guess the impressions that you had for this project was just a mere misinformation, and it wasn't anything that he really intended to do, that he changed his mind?
I think so, to kind of allude to Ms. Nancy Cooper. I think some of the information, I came to the conclusion that some of it was just misinformation, and you get an opportunity to hear from both sides today. And but yes, I think some of it was just miscommunication.
So there wasn't anything you had to change his mind on. He just wasn't going to do anything that you felt was a negative impact on your neighborhood to begin with.
That's correct. Anytime I can trade those rats, those raccoons
Yes.
and snakes
Okay.
for a golf course and a walking trail, it's a no-brainer for me.
Okay, very good, sir. Thank you.
Had you ever called code enforcement, Coach? I think I asked you that.
Yes, I
About
talked to
this
code enforcement.
grades.
I talked to city councilman. I talked to city representative. I talked to property standards. We talked to the mayor's office. We talked to just about everybody that I know to talk to. To this point, just tall grass, bushes, weed, rats, snakes, and those sort of things. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Salone?
Good afternoon.
I'm Harry Salone Jr., and I live at 6224 North Windermere Drive, Shreveport, Louisiana 71129. Oh, excuse me. I came down today to address you in support of this project because I just want to see that area come back alive. I used to be a caddy there in the late 50s and early 60s in Shreveport Country Club. I got a lot of fond memories of. But the primary reason I'm here is because I was assured that the corporate was going to bring in a golf academy. And I know as a first-hand witness what golf and life skills can do for kids. I was with the First Tee organization here in Shreveport for the first 6 years, and I seen the impact that it had on kids. And as a matter of fact, real personal to me, my own son got stopped on Pier Avenue, and he got upset with the police, but he kept his cool because he remembered what we taught him in the class on how to interact with the police. And he got upset and come home mad with a ticket, but you know, like I told him, I'm glad to see him and the ticket at home.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Liz Scott, and my address is 3841 Claiborne Avenue, Shreveport, Louisiana, 71109. First, I want to thank you for allowing me to speak, and I do want my neighbors to know I respect your opinions, and we've all talked at meetings, and I just ask that I'm giving my opinion today, and I should respect that one, please. When I look at situations or opportunities that's given to me, I always, as I alluded to in the meeting the other night, I always think of a glass of water and I look at it. This glass is either half full or half empty. And depends on how you look at it, it affects you totally. And if you look at it half empty, you're gonna say, oh, I don't have enough. But if you're out in the desert and there's nobody but you and you have a half a bottle of water, you're going to look at that water a little bit more positively. You're not going to say, I have a half empty and hold on to that bottle. I'm not going to drink it because I have a half empty bottle and I don't know how long I'm going to stay here. But if you look at it half full and you think about the benefits, you know what? I'm blessed. I'm out here by myself, but I have some water, even though it's a half a bottle of water. And I'm going to take this water and just drink it just to wet my throat. And it's going to last a little longer. But sometimes we have to look at life situations in the same manner. At one of the meetings, something was said, I looked at the concerns, and the concerns were jobs and noise. Well, when I look at noise, I mean, you can look at it negatively, half full or half empty. When you look at it half full, you're going to look at the benefits of noise. Is this noise that's in our neighborhood right now? Is it going to benefit us? You think growth with the nailing and the construction sites that's going on, you're looking at progress. And you know in the end, the result will be positive. But if you look at that noise negatively, look at that water negatively, when you look at it and you say, 'cause I lay in my bed sometimes. When I moved into my neighborhood, it was nice, quiet, and clean. But when I lay in my bed at night, more and more, I'm hearing gunfires, police, paramedics. And it's happening more and more. It's not the same community that I moved into. And that's why I say, if you look at the half-empty bottle of water. If you look at it negatively, you're going to find the excuse for the noise. But if you look at it positively, you're going to find good excuse for that noise. So I say to you, which noise you want? Positive noise or a negative noise. And the reason I could say the negative, because during the rainstorm, the tornado came, and I had water dripping over my bed from the roof. And I said, I got to call my insurance agency and let them know that I need them to come out and look at my roof, because I got some water coming down over my head. Well, the adjuster came out, and I said, God, it's taking him so long. So I went out there, what's taking you so long? And he laughed. He said, you do not have hail damage. This is what happened to your roof. And he gave me a handful of bullets that was coming down where I laid my head. And the rain coming down, it was from bullets. So those bullets came from somewhere. When I first moved in that neighborhood, that wasn't happening. So that tells me that our neighborhood is decaying. So we have to come together and figure out a way to help our community not decay. When you talk about...
Ms. Scott, your time has expired, so if you want to make a closing statement.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to say. So I was going to say, when you talk about opportunities, don't look at our opportunities negative. Embrace the opportunities that you have, and you try to help to make it more positive for yourselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Smith, did you have a question?
No.
Okay.
I think it's
Clear the queue.
Mr. Chair.
Good afternoon. I'm Tim Magner. I'm the president of the Greater Shreveport Chamber of Commerce. I live at 12075 Ashland Way in 71106. And I wanted to come forward today to encourage you to provide the variance that's being requested here, in large part because, again, we think that the investment in our community is critical going forward. And when folks have vision and have energy, I think it's best to give them the benefit of the doubt and encourage them to move forward. We do have lots of questions. I'm sure there will continue to be questions. A 10-year project is going to involve give and take on both sides. We feel that the processes and your oversight will enable that project to continue to be on the straight and narrow if it needs to be. But the thing we need to do right now is to enable it to move forward, and so we're encouraging you to provide the variance that allow them to move forward. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Magner. Pastor Mitchell.
Yes, sir. Pastor Jackson, and to the board, my name is Pastor Danny Mitchell Jr., live at 1728 Cross Lake Boulevard. I'm the pastor of the New Elizabeth Baptist Church, also the executive director of Nehemiah Community Development Corporation, which is also housed at my church at 2332 Jewell Avenue. I was in on the tail end of one of these meetings. I was a victim, if you would allow me, of misinformation. But this past week I had an opportunity to sit down over a cup of lemonade with Brother Henry, and he expressed to me in detail his proposal, and I'm all for it. He's talking about bringing jobs, talking about bringing housing, talking about bringing education, and that is something that we need in Shreveport right now. And I would hate to see, or I would hate for Shreveport to gain the reputation of being a city that is anti-progressive. Amen. This is a brother from out of town. He has his own money, his own financial backing, and I believe that we should embrace change. And I know that change is not something that is always welcome, but in this case and in this time, it is very well needed. And so my prayer and my desire is that we approve whatever is necessary for this campaign to go forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Jameson.
Good afternoon. My name is Taylor Jameson. I am the Executive Director of Strategic Action Council, 631 Milam Street, Shreveport, Louisiana. Here, like many of the others, we are here to speak in favor of this project. If you guys look up at this screen and see the visuals of this project, who would not want that in their community? I don't want to get into the particulars of the actual project, but in the case of zoning, I mean, it's a no-brainer. So I hope you guys will approve this in the matter of zoning. And I'm also wearing another hat. I sit on the board of the Shreveport-Bossier African American Chamber of Commerce, who is also in support of this project. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Jameson. Is anyone else to speak in support of this application? If not, is there anyone here to speak in opposition to this application? Principal spokesperson, and then others who will have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon. My name is Miguel Denise Parsons, and I reside at 3921 Merwin, here in Shreveport, Louisiana, 71109. I'd like to speak in opposition of C 3218, the rezoning for Renaissance Hill Chariot Companies. And I'd like to give you additional petitions that were just given to me today from about 50 other residents in our community. And that's in addition to the 150 you received today, or yesterday. Please accept our signature-based petitions in opposition. As residents of Country Club Hills and surrounding subdivisions, we're absolutely against this application, C-3218 Renaissance Hill and Chariot Companies. We've attended several meetings that we initiated with Mr. Henry. As he explained to me, this is his third stop in Shreveport, or his third time here. And we've only met with him once with a meeting we initiated. We asked many questions of Mr. Henry, the developer, and Mr. Curtis Joseph, the attorney, spokesman for Mr. Henry, and an MPC board member. And they both have provided conflicting information and have yet to clearly answer the questions that were presented. While we are not against improving our city, statistics have shown that placing this type of development within an established community would negatively impact the quality of lives the citizens have worked extremely hard to obtain. As taxpayers, neighbors, community activists, and retirees, we've established a wholesome, family-oriented community and would like for it to remain as such. Now, if we've been given misleading information, it's by no means from the residents. For example, what is included in this proposal was told to us temporarily housing and community-based education vocational buildings. Transitional housing is defined as supportive yet temporary type of accommodations that is meant to bring the gap of homelessness to permanent housing by offering structured supervision support for addictions and mental health. For instance, life skills and in some cases education and training. And in this proposed new construction, those components of community-based educational vocational building was explained to us, where they will take persons and give them some type of vocational training. We were also told that this is similar, or if you look at what we were told and what we did last year, this is still the same soup being reheated. We understand the pressures, the scrutiny, media coverage, and negative attention the MPC have received, but stay true to the mission statement of the MPC. The mission of the MPC is to provide comprehensive planning and development, opportunity, and quality of life for all residents of Shreveport. Please do not use our community as vindication to this situation by rezoning the Shreveport Country Club. Please do not accept the proposal of C-3218 Renaissance Hill and Chariot Companies, because again, upon reviewing the site plan and crunching numbers, questions were again asked to Mr. Henry and Mr. Joseph, and here are a sample of what was said. There was some government-funded dwelling living facilities, quote unquote. There would be some government-funded dwellings. We are also told, or we were also told, that persons can use housing vouchers, that we cannot discriminate against these persons. One neighbor even asked if they would consider taking the apartments off the proposal, and they were told it's either all or nothing. When asked if this school was a real traditional school, and after much dissertation, it's not. Now for the job aspect. The site plan specifically specifies 13 phases. So we know that contractors will get their fair share and then they're gone. There will be instructors for a non-traditional school. There will be a staff for a 120-room limited service hotel and a 9-hole golf course. Now today we're hearing it's going to be a golf academy. There will also be a high-end restaurant that has not been defined, and some sort of entertainment pavilion. All good intentions. As for housing, on the low end, you're looking at 4 persons per household. That's roughly 3,000 residents. And that's not counting the in and out of traffic of visiting families and friends and the many also. And this may also decide to be a residency for current family members, persons visiting. Let's look at the portion of Renaissance Hill and Chariot Company's returns. Money from the rent generated by 240 apartments will go to the landlord who resides in Pennsylvania, not in Shreveport. The property owner that the neighbors consistently complained about regarding the upkeep, who got this land as a gift, will now get an even bigger gift of $4.3 million. The banks will collect on 161 single-family detached homes and 91 multifamily townhomes. Is that anywhere in the city? Will our banks get that? And lastly, let's not forget, Mr. Joseph, I'm sure, will also get his fair share. So now at the end of the day, what did the neighbors get out of all of this debacle? The persons who will be impacted. When the dust settled, let's not rationalize this situation. Let's look at what's true and concrete in the neighborhood. And this situation, for example, the site plan is not, again, this site plan is not the only identifiable revenue for the tax-based community. We would appreciate input in development of our community because we are the ones that have to live here. We sought out the developer. We asked the questions of the developer and the spokesperson. We weren't invited to anything. We didn't have any input until we asked. Are property standards being enforced equally? Just drive through Shreveport Country Club and see for yourselves. And can the MPC identify exactly what's causing the decay in the Country Club Hills subdivision so we don't have to come down here and oppose rezoning because it looks good? Because all of the bells and whistles that you're hearing? When Shreveport MPC board members serve as a representative spokesperson for a developer, transparency is lacking. Again, when a Shreveport MPC board member serves as a representative / spokesperson for a developer, transparency is lacking on all parts. And what services will enhance the quality of life for the residents of this community, who, by the way, are the true stakeholders in the Country Club Hills subdivision? Now, someone on your team said it, and I quote, "There are certain people that are louder voices than other people, and there's always a hidden agenda behind a lot of that." What is that? It's a hidden agenda. And again, all of this is beautiful. Bells and whistles are beautiful. But as a resident and a homeowner, and I'm sure as an MPC board member, we don't understand really all of what this entails. Mr. Henry spoke about history. That country club has been there, but I can guarantee you we weren't allowed to play on it. The monies that will come into this city is not enough to maintain this city, not from this project. It's beautiful. He has a beautiful mind. But does it fit? Is it the makeup of our neighborhood? Is it the makeup of this city that you're looking at? Something in and out and quick? And again, by rezoning this area, you will be opening Pandora's box for anything and everything. And it is in our neighborhood, and it is in your city. If you use the MPC's mission statement as your guide, there is no hidden agenda. Everyone will be rewarded. Let's keep this city classy. Shreveport is our home, it's my home, and it's your home. Thank you for your time.
Yeah,
You have,
I'm sorry. Were there any questions?
as a principal spokesperson, I think you'll have to receive most of the questions. Any questions?
Does she reside in the area?
Ms. Damo, too?
Yes, ma'am, do you
Miguel.
actually reside or live in the area?
I live a rock throw from what they're planning and proposing, yes.
Is that inside the gate? Is that inside the gate or
I
outside?
live on Merwin. I can see the country club from my home. I can see the area that they're wanting to develop from my home. I can see the houses behind the brick homes that have been established in my neighborhood going up behind our homes.
I need to ask you a question.
Yes, ma'am.
You say you can see in the country club with the tall grass there, you see that, Dave?
I see the trees and the beautiful surroundings of the greenery that buffer from the noise from my home. I live on Merwin. If you can envision the country club, there's one way in, and that's through Esplanade. I'm around the buffer, the greenery of the country club.
Thank you.
Mr. Ramirez? I'm sorry.
go ahead.
Go ahead, Mr. Ramirez.
I guess specifically.
Yes, sir.
What are you, I know you gave a lot that you're concerned with, but, you know, we've heard, and I've driven, you know, by there recently, and it does look pretty rough out there because they don't have the money to, you know, the money's not there within the current property owners, and it's, you know, it's not on the tax rolls in Shreveport, it's owned by a nonprofit, so, but and I'm just asking questions because I'm trying to put all this together.
Okay.
If a gentleman from outside of town is going to spend $100 million or a couple $100 million in our community, create tax base and a better place to live for, you know, your people that in your neighborhood or around your neighborhood. I'm trying to understand specifically if it's going to be probably well landscaped, and then the entry is going to be on the other side of things and not come through your neighborhood. Those are some of the concerns that we get mostly, is the increased traffic and things like that. But
Mr. Remedy?
yes, ma'am.
All that glitters is in gold. And to try to answer your question, what I think you're asking, first of all, if I have property and my grass is grown up, my neighbors are going to call you or the city, whomever, to property standards to get it taken care of. I think the same rules that are enforced on me as a resident should be enforced on property owners. Now, it's not my fault that I got a gift and I couldn't maintain it. We were told back in 2017 at another meeting that we had regarding this same problem by our city councilman. They don't have to cut it, we'll cut it, the city will cut it, and we'll send them a bill. Well, apparently this hasn't transpired. But the thing that still remains is we all live in Shreveport. We just happen to be in an area where persons decided to move after we got there. And I love my area. I really do. I am a homeowner. I just don't want to see it butchered. And again, this isn't the only, I don't think it is, I don't think it will be the only proposal for that area. But I spoke to someone in Baton Rouge in restoration, and they referred me to someone else because they were concerned also. Here's someone, they referred me to someone in New Orleans. They said it's the same thing that's going on there. People are coming and calling it urban. There's nothing urban about this. This is a stable neighborhood of retirees, of families, of persons just like you in your community. have come to love and come to live.
So your opposition is more for the fast-paced lifestyle?
My opposition is the rezoning because it is my understanding if it's rezoned for this and these 13 phases don't go through, the change has already happened, and correct me if I'm wrong. When it's rezoned out of residential and zoned for commercial, anything commercial can go in that area. And I say that because, again, Greenwood Road is zoned for commercial. We have anything and everything on that strip now, and it's bad.
Well, and I have a question for staff. Mr. Gene?
Yes, sir.
If it's, from what I understand, if it's granted as a PUD, it's very, very, very restrictive of what it can be used for and nothing else, correct?
It's not just a PUD they're asking for, it's a
But, and that's what this would be, Mr. Gene?
Yes.
But-
What governs it is the plan that is submitted.
Exactly. So if they try to build anything else other than what they've presented to the community and to this board, they would have to come back for.
Yes, sir.
And
Approval.
the notice, the nearby residents would be given another opportunity to pose objections.
Yes, sir. That's exactly
So
correct.
I'm just trying to
But let
clear
me ask
everything
this,
up.
Mr. Remedy. If it is rezoned, yes, someone can come back in and propose building something else, but the zoning, taking it out of residential to commercial, is our concern. When you take it out of residential to commercial property, because it's
But
not a
this is-
commercial,
This is going to be a mixed use. It's gonna be
yes, and,
residential.
yes.
But
and
it's
we're-
very, what I'm trying to convey is that this is the most restrictive that they could have received. And they would have to come back to do anything else.
But wonder if
So-
they lose it and don't want to do anything and it's been rezoned. I think what it is that's so disillusional to everybody.
And I can
And-
understand where you're a little bit concerned with the motives, but I promise you, we hear a lot of cases, and you sometimes try to look through things and see, but every now and then there is something that's good that can happen. And, you know, when they call me about a project, that's the first thing, I guess, thing I was telling them is be sure you speak to the neighbors and answer their questions before the bad
That
information
didn't
gets out
happen.
there.
It didn't happen.
Well, but we have a lot of people that are saying that they met multiple times with, the
We-
developer. And I'm sorry, I
that's
can't
fine.
speak
I
to that. I'm
understand.
just trying to help you understand that the decisions that we make have to be within the guidelines of, does it meet, met the master plan, and then we have our staff that vets it, and then they probably work harder on these projects than they do any other because of the stringent requirements that would be placed on them.
Mr.
Okay?
Remedy, based upon the master plan, do you think the dynamics of this city has changed within the 2 years of that master plan?
Oh,
Now,
it-
remember that master plan was drafted May 2010.
But that's
I'm just asking.
that's another conversation. We had
Okay.
to have that for a plan to go back to.
Okay.
I'm just trying to convey that the decision we have to make using the information that we have.
Mm-hmm.
But specifically, your concern was with the increased traffic, and you wanted it to be more of a peaceful, place to retire. And maybe you're questioning some of the motives behind some of that. I just want to get to the bottom of it. So if there's a real concern, we can address it here and have someone put it on record, and we can, that way they're accountable for what they say.
We tried to address it when we asked the developer or his spokesperson, would you consider taking the apartments off? We know that will decrease the value of our property, because we look at the apartments that are there now that started off as luxurious apartments. Now they're all Section 8, and we were told, no, it's either all or nothing. So it's not just the traffic, sir. It's the lifestyle, the livelihood. It's why we moved there.
Let me ask.
I'm sorry.
Let me interrupt. What apartments are you referring to?
What apartments?
Yeah.
On Lakeshore?
That are within the Rock, Golf Links, come down from Golf Links, Country Club, come around from Country Club, everything in the parameter of that. Everything in the
Which apartments specifically? I don't know.
Golf Links, on Golf Links Boulevard.
Okay.
Yeah, but those were built long, long ago, and that's,
I understand,
that's
but these are built now and long, long ago. We just,
okay.
okay.
That's all the questions I have.
Okay, sir. I'm just being realistic.
Yes, ma'am,
Thank
but
you.
what we try to do sometimes as board members, when we take into consideration the input from the public, is to get through get straight to what your concerns are, and if there are things that, specifically that are in the code that address that, And that's what I'm trying to convey,
Okay.
is this will be the most restrictive development or approval they could have received, okay? Or they're asking.
Yes.
Okay.
Just remember your mission, and it'll be
All
okay.
right, Ms. Smith?
Yeah, I have a
Yes.
question, and I want to try
Oh,
to
I'm
help
sorry.
you.
I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Ms. Cooper was
Oh,
next.
I'm so
Yes,
sorry.
I'm sorry.
That's off the thing. Just quickly,
Yes.
Ms. Parsons,
Yes.
you heard me ask Mr. Henry specifically about your complaint about transitional housing. And
It's
how-
not a complaint.
and
Let's
how you
take that off
define-
the
Well, it
books.
was listed as a concern
Yes.
in your report, and you defined it in the report just like you defined it here.
Yes.
And you heard him deny that there will be any transitional housing. Do you believe him?
I also heard him say in a meeting, if a person brings a letter for housing, we cannot deny that. So what is a
that's
letter?
true.
Yeah, so what is a letter? Explain, maybe I don't know what that
Well,
is.
can I-
If
can I address-
someone brings a
real quick?
certificate
If
for
you- Well,
housing?
here's, for instance, if I have a home that I'm leasing that I spend $140,000 or $50,000 building, and someone comes with a housing certificate for $800, that's all the money I can get. I can't charge you for the balance. So if you assume that he's going to spend $140,000 and just get the, whatever a housing certificate would accept, he's not been as successful as he is on that type of business model, okay? So, I mean, I don't know if anyone understands it that can explain it better, but a housing certificate is very limited, and I've had homes that I rented on housing certificates, and it's not a lot of money, and it's certainly not anything that you can build a new construction home and come out with a housing certificate. So I can't imagine how that would even be a model that would be sustainable.
Yeah, somebody was
Bessie?
Miss Bessie?
Finish.
Yes.
Smith?
Yes, ma'am.
After I left dialysis, I went over to your area today.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm just wondering
Yes, ma'am.
about accountability in that area.
Okay.
From just looking and then where you say you are living,
Yes, ma'am.
it looks like a jungle back up in there.
Oh,
And I'm
absolutely.
just wondering that you all been over there and it's something your neighborhood group could have done. And I'm talking about calling code enforcement to clean up all of that mess back in there.
Okay.
And I'm just telling you, if you're not doing it, you need to do that.
Okay.
You need to have your association to get together and call code enforcement so they can come back in there and clean it up, even if he doesn't invest in the area. Because from what I can see, something is better than nothing.
Miss.
And
Yes, ma'am.
and I'm just trying to help you out here.
Okay.
On this.
Miss Smith, is
Yes.
it? I've been in Country Club Hills for almost 50 years. I'm the second black or African American family that moved into the community. And trust me when I say, we go to every extreme to maintain our neighborhood. We've called, we've documented, we've done everything. So again, it's not on our end to not do what needs to be done. We've done everything, from going to cleaning it up ourselves, to calling our parish commissioner. We've done everything. And I do know for a fact that Ms. Liz Scott has called the mayor to show them the tires that were built up all around her home. Did you not? They've done this. So please don't assume we don't care. I wouldn't be here if I didn't. But I do know, again, bells and whistles sound good, and it's not just the traffic, Mr. Remedy, that I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about the long haul of it, because I've been there and I'm there now. And I can assure you that from where I started 50 years ago to where I am now, and where I see this in the future, I'm against Proposition C 3218. Are there any other questions for me?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Um,
And I do believe
gonna-
there
I'm
should
gonna
be
stay-
prosperity for everybody, but not on everybody.
Ms. Parsons,
Yes, sir, I'm sorry.
And I'm gonna try as much as I can to stay away from the notion of vouchers and Section 8.
Yes, sir.
Because I'm a little frustrated sometimes the way people talk about people
Exactly.
who live in apartments on Section 8.
I agree.
Given my own history.
I can tell you mine,
So I'm
sir.
gonna stay away from that.
Yes, sir.
But you said something about a school. Tell me about the school.
I can't tell you any more that was told to us. We kept asking, what kind of school, what kind of this? Is it a traditional
So
school?
is it possible that there's no school at all?
We were told that it was a,
I heard about some programs, like things that you would do, programs, coding and those kind of things, but you said
Yes.
school.
We were told it was a school, and the question
So
was,
this
I'm
could be
sorry,
another issue of misinformation that we need to clarify.
but this information
Listen to
came
me.
from the
Can you tell me
persons.
this as a matter of fact?
Yes, sir.
There is no school necessarily, but we need to clarify it. I'm trying to
Please.
get to the issue so that when I call Mr. Henry back up,
Yes,
I know
sir.
exactly what to ask him.
Yes, sir.
So that we don't know if there's a school, but you need to know that.
I need
Because
to.
you
Yes,
talk
sir.
matter-of-factly about it.
Yes.
And I'm asking, is there something we need to clarify?
Yes, please.
Okay.
What,
Then-
shall I ask?
Yeah, I'm just
Okay.
asking what we need to know so that when it's over, we don't have to have any innuendo. We
Yes,
talk
sir.
about those things. You talked about landlords getting money.
For the apartments, when we met and asked to have it pulled off so we don't have to deal with the
So
apartments.
renters are the issue?
The apartments are the issue. The money that's not being generated in the neighborhood for the community, that's the issue.
So
How
are-
is this benefiting the
Are
neighborhood?
renters the issue?
Not the individual, sir.
No, the
Not-
idea of rent, the model of rent, forget the people.
The
but
idea of
rent as a
renting,
model
the idea of renting,
is a problem,
it is a concern.
concern,
Yes.
issue.
It's an issue. Yes, with the established neighborhood.
Gotcha,
Yes.
Gotcha. That's, I just want to.
Yes, sir.
Again, I'm not on the side of
I
this.
understand.
I'm asking questions.
Yes, sir.
So rent is it. So the other thing was, well, property standards is not, this board doesn't do anything about property standards.
Okay.
And I want to say, I think, if I'm correct, we talked about it, the hidden agenda. I
Yes.
think the agenda is not hidden. I think it's real plain, profit. And I think that's always the case. Now,
Always.
how you do it
Yeah.
is always an issue, I think, but I don't think it's a hidden agenda. I think in this case, it's a fully private venture, which means profit is
Okay.
the agenda. And how we do that, is always going to be an issue. I think for us, our issue is one, as I was saying, I was alluding to Mr. Remedies earlier, that, I was as much about zoning, not necessarily about that individual who's doing it. And we have certain parameters that guide the decisions we can make. I think you read them off pretty good with reference to our mission. So I just wanted to be sure that when he comes back, I can ask about school, and then we can talk a little bit about renting in general.
And one other thing,
Yes.
Mr. Chair, would you address or have them address what jobs he's identifying that will remain in this area?
All right?
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anybody, any other questions for Ms.
Miguel.
Miguel, Ms. Parsons? Thank you, Miguel.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody else to speak in opposition?
Good afternoon. My name is Cassandra Calloway. I reside at 3822 Oakcrest Street, Shreveport, Louisiana, 71109. I am a neighborhood planner and coordinator by trade, and I'm a neighborhood advocate, I guess by birth. I'm speaking against this project simply because I feel like you're putting a community within a community. There's over 6,000, although I've given you sheets of the demographics, but this is from 2010 and they haven't done the next census yet. We have close to 6,000 people in Country Club. Although there may be a handful of us here today, we fight every day to preserve our way of life. We hold neighborhood cleanups, we pick up trash, we dispose of tires, old sofas, toilets, you name it, to try to reserve or maintain the quality of life that we have. We were here last year, fighting for the same thing. I know Shreveport is strapped for money. I know your tax coffers are almost depleted. I know that Caddo Parish has much